deadlines for the investments on exploration and production. So which is really good for the companies. All of them, they are extending the phase and the agreements. On the tax aspects, here is not something new. It's going on in the industry for some years now. I don't know if you heard. We have a regime which is called Repetro-SPED. It's a customs regime. In Brazil, if you need to import any asset, any good to be used in the exploration and production activities, you don't pay federal taxes. Federal taxes in Brazil are really high, so this is really good for the industry. So you don't pay, and then when the good goes back to the country, you just have to make some procedures. So this is an incentive really important. And also, this is something really peculiar in Brazil. They split between the charter and services agreement. Vessels that are used in the country, drilling rigs, FPSOs, supply vessels, we don't have like one single charter agreement. We have a split, a charter agreement and a services agreement, because of tax planning. So as I said, taxes in Brazil are too high. So the government has implemented a regulation providing that you can pay the charter fee abroad with withholding income tax at a 0% tax rate, and you only pay taxes under the services agreement, which is signed with a local company. So it's really good also for the industry. That's it for oil. And I want to talk to you about the gas market, because that is something that is changing in Brazil. And what happens is that Petrobras, I want to show this picture first. Petrobras was the company who had all of the control of the market until last year. Petrobras was not only the producer, has not only the production of the gas, but also Petrobras used to buy all of the gas produced in the country. And Petrobras was the only company that had all of the processing plants. So Petrobras bought the gas, they were processing the gas. Petrobras was also the owner of the transportation company, and Petrobras was the only company that could sell the processed gas to the market. So it was an uprighted market, and Petrobras has the entire control. And because of that, the price of gas in Brazil was too high. And now we have a new regulation, new legislation, the new gas law, and Petrobras was required by the government and by the Brazilian authorities to sell its assets, its transportation, distribution assets, and to give access to third parties under the processing plants. So you can see here it's a completely new market. We have companies producing gas and accessing directly the processing plants. And also they can contract the transportation companies in order to send the gas directly to final consumers. So it's really interesting what is going on in the country right now. Completely different players, completely different market, a lot of investments in infrastructure. So it's really interesting. And what we are calling in Brazil, and this is how we connect with transition, we call the gas as the transition fuel. Because with the pre-salt reserves, the production of gas will increase, will double. So we need the gas in order to make the transition. And this is how the legislation came, in order to change the market and allow all of the companies involved with the market in Brazil to access the transportation and the processing plants, and sell actually the gas internally. LPG. In Brazil, currently, we import almost 30% of the LPG that we use in the country. But considering the increase not only of the oil and the gas to be produced in the country, we expect that in the next 10 years, we will not need to import anymore, and we will actually export 70% of our local production of LPG. And that there is something really interesting here that I would like to show you. I don't know if you heard, but Brazil has a major production of biofuels, especially because of the sugarcane industry. And here is the connection between the biofuels industry with the biogas. because we are already producing biogas from the sugarcane that it's used also to produce the biofuels. So we are expecting a huge increase on the production of biogas. Actually, we already have in place projects for more than 800 biogas plants, and the new gas law has made biogas made it equal to natural gas for commercialization and transportation purpose. So if you produce biogas, you can just transport it on the same pipelines that any producer of natural gas do. So this is really important. It's already happening. It is really interesting to see how the market is in movement in regard to that. And we have oil companies already investing on this kind of projects. So the gas market, we see that everybody is investing a lot on it, and I think that we have four main reasons for that. One is the Petrobras investment plan, because what I told you, they have sold all of the participation on the transportation company, and we also have new players on the onshore fields that produce a lot of gas as well. We have the new regulation, not only the new gas law, but all of the regulations that came after the new gas law. The energy transition, because Brazil is seeing the natural gas as the fuel for the energy transition, and a lot of investments in the infrastructure, because I don't know, we only have like a pipeline in the close to the sea, and now with these new open markets, new pipelines are being built, especially from the pre-salt reserves to the ports and to the plants, that processing plants and etc. So it's really interesting, the movement of the market in this regard. Finally, going to the renewables, we already have a really green energy matrix, especially because of the water that are the energy that is produced from hydropower, right? And as I told you, we are the second largest biofuels producer. And I don't know if you heard about it, but Brazil has most of the cars in Brazil, they are flex fuel. They can run both with gasoline and ethanol. Ethanol produced from sugarcane. So this makes our matrix clean, and it's already really good because we can develop both oil and gas and renewables at the same time, and we have oil companies actually involved. If you look into the biofuels market, the major companies involved are Shell and BP through the Brazilian subsidiaries Raízen, etc. So it's really interesting how the market has developed on the recent years in regard to the biofuels, and we have different regulation, not only emphasizing the use of biofuels in the country, but also you can use the biofuels as a carbon credit. So it's really good, for the country, the biofuels. And as I told you, the biogas is directly related to the biofuels because it is also, it has a relation with the sugarcane industry, which is the major producer of the biofuels. And nowadays in Brazil, we have also started to discuss low carbon hydrogen. We don't have yet a specific regulation for that. We have the National Hydrogen Program. We have also a bill of law. The bill of law intends to change the petroleum law in order to include the low carbon hydrogen as a kind of fuel, a kind of energy source in Brazil. And we already have actually a lot of projects being developed for the implementation of hydrogen plants, especially in two states, Rio de Janeiro and Ceará. And these projects are being developed together with projects related to offshore wind, which is really new in Brazil too. We actually don't have any plants yet. they are also being developed now. We just had like a decree published in 2022 this year, and we have a bill of law being we are almost, approving this bill of law related to offshore wind farms, and the projects of the offshore wind farms are being developed together of hydrogen power plants. And we are also seeing lots of oil and gas companies investing on those kinds of projects, which is really interesting. And also in Brazil, the offshore wind farms are going to be used for electrify the platforms and etc. offshore. So I think that Brazil is really similar to Africa when we look through the side. We cannot afford not to develop and produce oil and gas. We have major reserves, we have pre-salt, we need the money, we are a developing country. At the same time, we have other resources, we are capable to develop a lot of renewables, but we can do both at the same time. Don't need to choose something, and that's what the government is trying to do. They are implementing regulation in order to, okay, let's do it, let's produce oil, let's do it fast, but at the same time, we will not forget the renewables, and we can use the oil and gas industry to invest on the renewables here in the country. Okay? So it's interesting to see that. So I think that's it, what I just said to you. As an emerging economy, we cannot disregard our oil and gas reserves. And because of the energy transition, we can see other major opportunities. And what we can offer, I think we can offer a lot. We can offer the pre-salt reserves, we can offer a clean energy matrix, we can offer different kinds of gas, we can offer natural gas, biogas. We have major potential for renewables, and we can attract different kind of investments in both sides, oil and gas and renewables. I think that's it. That's just a picture that I took from the airplane when I came to here on Saturday.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And you covered the whole energy sector. Brazil, very interesting developments in Brazil. Any questions from the floor, please?
Yeah, thank you for that brilliant presentation. Thanks for that insight. Appreciate it. Just looking at the issue of the value chain across board and the opportunities that are available, and for international businesses, and the idea of doing business, the ease of doing business in Brazil across board. Do you think that the regulatory regime in Brazil is favorable to businesses coming in that want to be involved in various aspects of the value chain that may not be directly energy specific, but would tie into various aspects? How easy is it to register, or is it to own property? What is the tax regime? All those kinds of issues. So that's really what I want to know from your perspective.
Yeah. I think that Brazil is a tricky market.
Yeah.
We have a lot of legislation in place, so I think that if a company wishes to invest in the country, there are a lot of opportunities, but you have to be you have to have the good person with you in order to establish a company, because you have bureaucracy, to establish a company. The tax regime in Brazil is it's hard to understand. It's not easy. We have a tax under the federal, the state, and the municipality levels. Is completely different of what you have in other parts of the world. We don't have VAT, for instance. We have ICMS, which is a state tax that differs in each state that you operate. So in order to establish a company in Brazil, you have to find we have to see and to apply some rules. But even with these, we also have other policies that the government has implemented in the last years in order to attract investments, as I mentioned, we have customs regime that are really good for importation. We have contracts that are really similar to the ones that we normally use worldwide. I'm not talking about Petrobras, because Petrobras has its only model of agreement, but when you discuss, when you negotiate with other companies, Brazilian companies or international companies operating in Brazil, it's really similar of what you usually do in other countries. So yeah, you just have to be aware of the three key parts, which are for me tax, labor, and corporate, and then you are okay to come to the country.
Okay, just to follow on that, because when you talked about like the model contracts from Petrobras, for instance, looking at I think in relation to the concession agreements and the local content, what is the extent of flexibility for investors, and is there a fixed parameter for local content, or is there some liberty in making, because I think somewhere in your slide you talked about it's bespoke.
It is a fixed percentage for local content, but the legislation gives you nowadays some possibilities to request for waiver. In case you prove that the prices in Brazil are too high, in case you prove that there is a country that offers a different technology that you cannot have in Brazil. Also, if you have in Brazil, local content has, like, you have a global local content, and you have to also items of specific items that you have to comply with. So if you prove to the ANP, which is the regulator, that you have complied with the local content for this specific item, you can request a waiver for another item that you were not able. For instance, drilling rigs. You will never contract a drilling rig in Brazil. Drilling rigs are always imported. So you can also say to the regulator, oh, here I was not able to contract a drilling rig produced in Brazil, so here give me a waiver, and they will give you. Also, most recently, ANP has changed the fines that they have applied to the companies to exchange it to new investments that the company could do in another oil and gas fields. So they have made a lot of alterations in order to, attract investment and to make companies comfortable to operate locally. So it's really good.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Patrick.
Thank you for the robust presentation. I wonder how you deal with communities and environmental issues, especially if you have laws or policies to deal with this area.
We do. We do a lot of environmental laws. In Brazil, this is a major issue. But when we look to the oil and gas industry, most of our operations are offshore. So we don't have issues with communities. And when we look to the onshore operations, they are all mostly related to mature fields. So it's really difficult to see issues related to environmental and to communities when you look into the oil and gas industry. The major problems that we normally see are related to wind farms, because they actually have huge impacts on local communities, because they need to occupy major areas, and they have environmental impacts because of the sound and because of different things that So we have problems with environmental, with communities, and also with real estate. Real estate is a major issue when you look into wind farms in Brazil, onshore wind farms. So I would say that our environmental legislation is strong, and the environmental authority is actually really well established in the country. But we don't have, I would say that we have, people are concerned about it, they follow the rules, and if you follow the rules, you are okay. but I don't see, you know, that many problems involving the energy industry and the environmental regulator.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, just maybe on behalf of the class? As an energy lawyer in Brazil, working in a private law firm, Dimarest is the biggest law firm in Brazil. What advice would you give to future energy, environmental, renewable energy lawyers? Do you think it's for going private practice, or do you think like the route of maybe in-house counsel or even government side of things would, just your views on?
You know, in Brazil, we are having a hard time to find lawyers to work in this industry. Really hard time. I'm actually trying to contract someone for 4 months now and I can't find. So I think that there is a lot of opportunities in this area, I think worldwide, you know, especially in developing countries. And people like you here that are learning from the best, you are needed. So please come. Yeah, seriously, I think that what we are seeing in Brazil is that most people want to work in-house because, you know, law firms, we have a different lifestyle, right? So people doesn't want to work that much in law firms in Brazil anymore. So we are having a hard time to find professionals there, but we have a huge market, we have a lot of work, and so I think that's something that is going to happen in other countries, developing countries that has energy as we have.
So are you saying that most lawyers are preferring to work in-house for companies and for law firms?
But not because of the subject, because of the lifestyle.
Because of the lifestyle. Yeah. The companies give a better salary.
Yeah, not better salary,
less
work.
Thanks, Barbara, for a brilliant exposition. You covered a vast amount of ground, and every slide has something of interest for me, quite frankly. But just a couple of points regarding the Petrobras divestment. Is that finalized now?
No, they are still divesting of their refineries. Petrobras is selling 50% of its refining capacity. Petrobras used to operate all of the refineries in Brazil. And there is also still some offshore and onshore assets, but not that much anymore.
So in this connection, are these divestments open to FDI? Foreign direct investment?
Yeah.
And a company from anywhere can buy them?
Yeah.
With no
Any
kind of,
company.
no specific?
You have to have a Brazilian subsidiary in order to operate it afterwards, but you can bid as a foreign company.
Okay, okay. So another, I can do the research myself, but you mentioned Petronas, the Malaysian national oil company, have investments in Brazil.
They do a lot.
Are they major? Are they?
They do. They have a lot of investments in Brazil. I think that they have also participation on pre-salt assets. They have. They are one of the most. I think that Total, Equinor, Petrona, and Shell are the ones that, and ExxonMobil are the ones that have the major assets, you know, in the country.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Barbara.
That's it.
I know there was also a question about Petrobras. Petrobras is the national oil company in Brazil. Why did the government decide to divest Petrobras from the assets? Because it's a national oil company. Why didn't the government, for example, got rid of Petrobras, or just is going to break Petrobras down? So what is the future of Petrobras in Brazil?
Petrobras is focusing on its pre-salt reserves because it's the most profitable ones. The pre-salt is actually responsible for 75% of the production in Brazil. So, and Petrobras used to have all of the onshore assets and the infrastructure related to it, but it was not, you know, making proper investments on that, and the government found important to have new players, and these new players are actually investing And we have seen that the production of onshore fields and shallow water fields has actually doubled last year from now, because Petrobras was actually not putting any money on that. They were just leaving it there and making the minimal just to keep it running. So it's really interesting to see the market now open to new players, and the supply chain has developed a lot because of that, and the regions behind, because when we see the onshore in Brazil is mostly on the north of the country, which is not, it's like a poor part of the country, so it's really good for the region as well, for the population itself. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.